If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart. Let's get to it, New York.
And with that, just 2 more wins remain to get to the NBA Finals. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast where we are, of course, locked into this Knicks playoff run where after another victory, extending the win streak to 8 straight postseason wins, Knicks are now just 2 wins away from reaching the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. So much to get to here on this show. Again, I'm your boy EJ Stewart. This is Orange and Blue Bloods. Knicks are up 2-0 in this series on the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was a much more easy, relaxing performance in terms of having to watch them not have to sweat it out the way they had to in Game 1, where they had the comeback of all comebacks with less than 8 minutes left, down 22 points in the fourth quarter, coming back to send it in overtime and then win it in overtime. One of the greatest postseason wins in Knicks history. This one will not be on the Hardwood Classics or anything like that, but it was certainly got the job done. And to be honest, given how heart-wrenching that previous game was, it was good to see the Knicks get back to the more dominant fashion of ball that we've seen them play for the past several weeks. And now you're looking at a Knicks team that is right on the precipice of reaching at least one of their goals. We will not say this is the main goal or the only goal, which is to simply win the Eastern Conference. They want to win an NBA championship, and with how they are playing, there is no reason that anything less than an NBA championship should not be the goal for the team. But certainly getting out of the Eastern Conference will be an accomplishment for sure. It's not something they've done since '99. It's something that, as we saw what happened with the injuries between Halliburton and Tatum and just the quote-unquote Eastern Conference being wide open, the Knicks being one of the favorites, certainly one of the aspects of this season that has been the talking point is, can the Knicks take advantage of the injuries and the East being open to actually take care of business and get through to the NBA Finals and give themselves a chance? Now you're 2 wins away. You just need to win 2 out of the next potential 5 games, and you are Eastern Conference champions. That's where the Knicks are in this one. And we'll talk all about how they got to this point. Big ups to Josh Hart. He was the hero in this one, but there are plenty of other unsung heroes in this game as well. We'll break down what worked for this team, why they're up 2-0, and what we can expect going into Game 3 as this series now shifts to Cleveland, where you would expect a desperate Cavs team to take the floor on Saturday night. So much to do. This is Orange and Blue Bloods. We're streaming this live, by the way. This is a special live edition of Orange and Blue Bloods for those that are watching live. Why it's live, it was not planned to be live, but as you guys listen or watch other content I do, obviously 40 Days and Counting is my live stream show that I do twice a week. You can catch that on YouTube, catch that on my Instagram, Action EJ, on Buzzer as well. Shout out to the team at Buzzer, and of course on X. We had some technical issues that didn't allow X to stream. I think I know why it happened, which that's a different conversation for a different day for 40 Days and Counting. But because my audience on X didn't get to hear my thoughts on the Knicks win and stuff earlier this morning because my stream crapped out, I said, you know what? Anybody who's on X that feels like they missed out and want to, not wait the hour or so it takes for the podcast to get uploaded after we finish recording, let's let them stream on X and let them watch it now. So if you're on X, if you're also on YouTube, by the way, this episode also is being streamed on our YouTube channel, New Generation Media. If you're on X, if you're on YouTube, you're able to watch this and listen to this live. You can comment in the comment section if you want to talk about that Knicks win. Tell me what you thought about the Knicks win. All those things are to your avenue and available to you for this episode. So a special live episode. If there's live comments, we certainly will address them. But this is going to be a fun one because the Knicks are in a very advantageous position as this series now shifts to Cleveland. So the Knicks run away with this win in Game 2. They won 109-93. This was a game that kind of felt like it was on, it was kind of a weird game where it felt like the first half it was teetering towards whoever becomes the first team or whoever becomes the player that kind of really starts to break out in this game will kind of put the other team out of reach. Because it seemed like for 2 quarters, 2 teams were kind of feeling each other out. Donovan Mitchell got off to a slow start. Jalen Brunson, after the explosion he had in game number 1, he also was moving the ball well. He was getting his assists, but he was not scoring the ball at all. He only had 2 points in the first half. So it felt like it was kind of a weird game where it felt like it's close. I don't think either team is playing that great. Whatever team kind of puts their foot on the gas will probably run away with this game. And for our side, thank goodness it was the Knicks, and thank goodness it was Josh Hart who really started to make his impact felt in that third quarter. This is the series to me. And I say this is the series, I mean Josh Hart and his ability to be playable is going to be the series for the Knicks and certainly for Cleveland. It's almost more important for Cleveland than it is for the Knicks because the Knicks showed that they could win even if Josh Hart can't play on the floor, right? Because they took him off the court in the fourth quarter of game one, and they still found a way to win by putting Shamet in, and Shamet made shots, and that floor spacing certainly helped Jalen Brunson. This game, they didn't change the starting lineup, which I didn't expect or anything like that. I know some people were calling for Shamet to start. But I did think the leash was probably going to be shorter on Josh because of just how much success they had in that fourth quarter. And when you saw Josh struggling with the three ball, he missed his first three. And I don't know about you. I know I was in my living room more than just moaning and groaning. It was probably some F-bombs dropped about he's got to make some bleeping shots. He can't keep missing wide open shots. The Cavs are not going to guard him. They're going to put their centers on him. And they're going to hope that, especially with the strength of Jared Allen being his ability to defend the rim, that being able to hide him on Josh Hart will allow him to clog the paint and clog areas and make it difficult for certainly Jalen Brunson, but all the Knicks scorers, OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, to get a lot of space in the paint. And it worked for 3 quarters of the last game. And it was only when Landry Shamet was put in and it hit the threat of him as a three-point shooter. He came in immediately and hit a shot and automatically kind of made Cleveland adjust. That automatically changed that game. And you come into this game and you knew Josh Hart was going to have to make some shots in order to get Cleveland out of that defense because you knew they were not going to let Jalen Brunson just take over the way he did. And that's what they tried to do. They showed him way more bodies. This was not going to be Jalen Brunson being allowed to simply play one-on-one on James Harden the way they did in game one. The good news is that if Jalen Brunson is willing to give up the ball, which he was in this game, there should be plenty of opportunities for other guys to score. And Josh, despite missing those first 3 threes, and it looked like maybe, all right, what's going to be this quick hook for him? He's going to keep missing. He found the confidence in the second half. He made one towards the end of the first half and then really got hot in the second half. And that's when the floodgates really opened because he was making what were practice 3-point shots. I mean, these are not guys running at him. They're going to let him and shoot and dare him to shoot. And he hurt him. He was 5 for 11 from 3. Overall, he was 5 for 8 after missing his first 3 threes. He finished with a career high 26 points. And as great as the shooting was, which it was great, right? He took 11 threes. You may think Josh Hart taking 11 threes is a recipe for a disaster in theory for the Knicks. But when he makes shots the way he did last night, you got to let him shoot those threes. But it wasn't just that he was shooting the ball really well. I thought he did a really good job of attacking the paint despite the guys playing off him. I think Richard Jefferson made a good point in the broadcast that the one downside of playing a guy where you give them 10 feet is that essentially it gives a guy a running start. And even if you're Jared Allen, it's hard to stop a guy, an NBA caliber player who's coming at you full speed and has a two-way go and he can go whichever way he wants. So he got a couple of layups out of that. He got a couple of layups in transition because Josh is great at pushing the ball. He got Knicks some easy baskets with that. I said in my preview of this series, I thought the Knicks, especially in game one, had to get some buckets in transition, especially with this being a tired team, and they got that in this game, and a lot of that was due to Josh Hart. So it was the masterclass of Josh Hart. It was not just the shooting, it was him attacking the rim. He had some insane rebounds and some insane hustle plays where you're like, this is vintage Josh Hart. And his defense and his energy, I thought, was just infectious. This was an awesome bounce-back game from Josh Hart. It was quite funny. You see how he's starting the game and he was struggling. And he definitely was feeling it. You can kind of feel the anxiety from the crowd, feel the anxiety from him. He was asked about kind of what he was going through with that early frustration. And I want you to hear this kind of funny sound from Carl Towns. He was asked about it, and Carl Towns said, I don't think you want to know what Josh Hart was saying.
You missed a couple early, looked kind of frustrated. You slammed the ball down a little bit, it looked like. And then what were you telling yourself from there? And then how'd you feel about the way you played the rest of the game?
I don't know if we could say what he was saying to himself out loud.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a lip reader, and they certainly started showing some ISOs of Josh Hart. Like, yeah, he was pissed. Like, we all were. Like, anybody who's watching the game was like, if Josh Hart can make some shots, he can be a very valuable piece to the series. But if he's not going to make shots, you can't put him out there because it's going to make life harder for everyone else offensively, or at the very least, his minutes going to have to be cut. But Josh Hart started making some shots, and then after Karl Anthony Towns made that joke, he actually explained kind of what it was going through his mind as he was struggling early.
Those first three, they felt good. I was kind of frustrated with it because obviously, I've been putting in the reps with Kajo and Peter Patton, and I was frustrated at first. I'm just like, bro, it's not translating right now. And then I know how to just keep shooting, and if I did that, I'll be good.
And he kept shooting. He shot with confidence. And the rest of those threes looked really good. They were really good looks, and that kind of opened the floodgates. And like I said earlier today when I did 48s and counting, if Josh Hart is making open threes, the Cavs are just gonna lose. Knicks are gonna win the series, and they're gonna win it pretty decisively. If that's gonna be, because the adjustment to then having to guard Josh Hart means either you're guarding him with Jared Allen, which was what we saw what happened, whether it was Allen or Mobley, where they started getting pulled out of the paint, and then you started to see Brunson find some opportunity to score in the paint. You saw Mikal Bridges get some shots in the paint. Like, once the paint got opened up, when they started to just lean away from Josh Hart just a little bit, it opened up things for other guys. And like I've said, the Cleveland Cavaliers just do not have the defenders to definitely not guard Jalen Brunson. But they don't have the defenders, I think, to even guard OG. I don't think they have defenders to guard Mikal Bridges. They're not a good defensive team on the perimeter. They have some guys that are okay, but this is not the strength of their team. They funnel everything to their bigs, and they find ways to let their bigs roam on bad matchups so that those guys can be rim protectors. That is the strength of their defense. And when they're going well, they're a good defensive team. But if they don't have that option, they're screwed. So Josh Hart goes 5 for 11. That's how that game's going to go. They're going to get blown out every time. Now, the one thing I will say about Cleveland is they didn't shoot the ball that well. Some of that, you kind of wonder, is fatigue kind of starting to play a factor, right? Like, both Donovan Mitchell and Kenny Atkinson, who you'll hear from in a second, basically kind of chalked it up to, hey, listen, we got great shots. I like the process. We can't really be too upset about this loss because we did what we could do. We just missed shots. Sometimes, yes, it is just about missing shots, but sometimes also there's a reality of you've played back-to-back 7-game series, and you've played tough physical opponents in Toronto and in Detroit. And now you're playing a New York team that has had a lot of rest, that has a huge rest advantage. And you could say we're just missing shots, but there's a reality that your legs just might not come back because of the fatigue that you are facing. It's not something they want to hear. It's not something they certainly want to really acknowledge. But it's just a reality of the landscape of the series, which is why I talked about how important it was for the Knicks to sweep in the Sixers series and why it was great for the Knicks that series went to 7 against Detroit for Cleveland. Now, it didn't look good through 3 quarters. I think a lot of you folks that probably were in my mentions, I saw a ton of bookmarks that I think those Cavs fans and maybe even some Knicks fans who thought I was being overly confident were ready to get into my mentions and talk about, you guys talked about Russ versus Russ. Well, it looked like the Russ won, and now we're down 0-1. I saw a lot of bookmarks, removed after that post. It's kind of reminds me of the Charles Barkley quote after the Bulls were expecting to clinch, a Game 5 win to win the NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns in '93. Barkley had an insane performance to send the series back to Phoenix, and they had put up a bunch of basically brown paper and cardboard on the windows to make sure that there weren't broken windows during the parade and the celebrations throughout the night. And they asked Charles Barkley after the game, what do you have to say to the city of Chicago, who put up all these cardboard boxes and cardboards all over the city and all the windows to, expecting a Chicago win tonight. He said, and I'm going to say what he said, pardon me for the cursing or the kids who may be around. He said, take that shit off the windows. That's kind of how I feel about my bookmarks. I'm like, take them bookmarks off my damn page, because this series is pretty much going how I thought it would go, outside of what was a really, really rough first 3 quarters for the Knicks in Game 1, because the Knicks look like the better team. They look like the fresher team, and it looks like that is having an impact certainly on this series. Let's hear from Kenny Atkinson, head coach of the Cavs. I think you could say maybe he's a little embattled after blowing game 1 in terms of how he feels about his team heading into game 3, having lost game 2 so decisively.
Could easily stole game 1. I thought our process was right tonight, so that gives me confidence going home. Obviously we got the great home crowd, have played well at home in the playoffs, so we need to get our legs under us, quite honestly. We know their rest advantage, so getting home always helps with that. But definitely probably didn't have the juice tonight that we needed to, which is kind of, it's going to hit it sometime.
I mean, Kenny Atkinson not afraid to say basically fatigue is an issue in this series. Here was Donovan Mitchell, who did not want to hear anything about fatigue.
You guys have obviously played a lot of basketball over the last month. How much do you think we just need?
We're not tired. We're not tired. We're ready to go for game 3.
So he is not trying to hear that, but that is a thing, man. Like, again, at a certain point, we can't ignore science or physiology, right? If you play more games, if you take more mileage, and the other team is rested for an extended amount of time, that's going to play an advantage to the other team. And when you talk about those shots again that Cleveland was missing, you start to again feel like maybe this is an issue that they're not going to be able to overcome. The other thing about Cleveland in this game, in terms of their failures in this W for the Knicks, what happened to Evan Mobley? He was awesome. I thought his energy and his physicalities, for someone who's not typically sometimes isn't really a physical, over the top physical player, I thought his energy, physicality, urgency was exactly what Cleveland needed to start this game. I thought he set a great tone for them. He had 13 first half points, didn't shoot a shot the rest of the game. He came out red hot. I think he had 10 points in the first quarter and did not shoot the rest of the game. Some of that you could argue maybe is on him. Like he needs to, be demonstrative and get the ball. In some ways, him and Cat, they're different players, but in some ways they kind of feel like Spider-Man meme when it comes to like, hey, like this guy needs to be a focal point of the team. And yes, the team needs to keep him involved, but also he needs to demand the ball and demand a presence in the game. And he allowed himself to kind of just be a wallflower for the second half. But still, as a team, like that's a terrible job by them. And a lot of that stemmed from them looking and hunting for threes. That's the offense that they're going to play. That's what every team's offense is. And Sam Merrill didn't have it. Strus didn't have it. Strus was terrible in this game. He had a million fouls. He seemed to be complaining about every foul he made, which I don't know why. All of them were fouls. He had a million fouls. He almost fouled. I think he actually did foul off. He didn't foul out. He almost did. I think he fouled out in this game. He had a million fouls. Couldn't make a shot. Merrill couldn't make a shot. Donovan Mitchell, who I want to get to in a second, struggled from 3. He was 2 for 7 from 3. Those guys are bricking threes, and Evan Mobley, who actually was 2 for 3 from 3, so shot the ball pretty well, did not become a part of the offense in the second half. So that was a bad job by Cleveland's offense in terms of getting him involved, and I think it was a big reason for why they lost this game as well. But I also want to speak to Donovan Mitchell in terms of how he played in this game. He had 26 points. It just, to me, it felt like the emptiest 26 points I've maybe ever seen in a playoff game by a star. Like, he was 8 for 18. It's not terrible. He made 8 free throws. That's pretty good. He was 8 for 9. He only had 1 assist, and he pointed to the 1 assist and to the fact that they weren't making shots. We'll hear that sound in a second. But he only had 1 assist. He played 39 minutes, but it was I don't know. He had no impact. And I think he's hurt. I think he's dealing with something. And I said this before the series that I felt like this version of Donovan Mitchell was not going to be good enough to beat the Knicks. Because I watched how he played against Detroit, and he looked a step slow. Like, he played great in Game 7, and he still looked a step slow. Like, and the great players know how to manage their bodies and manage their way through even very intense, tough playoff games and still have impacts, even if you're not feeling great. They showed clips from Game 1 where it looked like at some point in the fourth quarter he pulled something and was kind of laboring the rest of Game 1. And the way I watched him in this game, and if you've watched Donovan Mitchell play, you know how explosive he is. You know how quick he is. You know how much he relies on his stop and go, how much his leg strength is a big part of his entire offensive game. Does that look like the regular Donovan Mitchell? Like, maybe the stat line, you'll squint and say, oh, 26 points? It's kind of like what Donovan Mitchell does. But when you watch the tape, or you watch that game live, does that look like Donovan Mitchell to you? Everything is below the rim floaters, which is not something that he relies on exclusively. He can make those shots, but everything's below the rim below the rim floaters. Everything is, step back threes where it feels like more he's settling rather than he's actually hunting for those shots. It feels like those are the few shots he feels comfortable actually taking. And, he had one really nice Euro pass Brunson for a layup, but you're not seeing the explosion. This is a guy who's an above the rim player, and you see no above the rim plays from him from this series. He's just not right. He's not right. Here's Donovan Mitchell talking about his health, and once again, credit to him. He doesn't want to hear anything about people talking about how he's feeling.
I'm great. I'm great. I'm great.
That's it. He says, I'm great. Don't worry about it. And again, credit to him. He's not going to make an excuse for the injuries. And I'm not sitting here trying to give him excuses, but I'm just being real. I'm giving you my real analysis. I don't think he's healthy. I don't think he's right. He's probably dealing with something with, the broadcast was very weird because they kept dancing around whatever the issue is. Because I guess Cleveland maybe on record won't tell them. But Lisa Salters multiple times was talking about Donovan Mitchell. She mentioned how she saw him go back to the locker room in the last game. Thought it was nothing because he goes back there when he's out. But then she thought it was weird how long he was out. And then came back. And then she tried to ask if he was good. He said he was good. But then he didn't look good during that fourth quarter in game one. Then, you watch this game. She says she asked Kenny Atkinson, how he is. That Donovan told me he's good. But I'm seeing what you're seeing, which is a lack of explosion, a guy who looks like he's laboring. Like, he didn't deny that Donovan Mitchell doesn't look right. And they're saying it's a leg thing. It seemed like after kind of like a hemming and hawing on the live broadcast of what he's dealing with, they eventually got to something with a groin. So maybe he's dealing with a groin injury. If that's the case, that's rough. That's not an injury that's really gonna heal in a day. Like, it's not something like that's something you gotta just chill. And it's an injury that could put you out for several weeks if that is something he really is dealing with. But it definitely could speak to why you're not seeing a Donovan Mitchell who's really letting his body go, who's really letting it push it, right? Like, think about OG Anunoby in the first game where it felt like for 3 quarters he was playing like a guy that didn't want to tear his hamstring. He just wasn't pushing it. He was not being aggressive. He seemed like he was trying to just allow his presence out there to be a factor. It wasn't until things got really rough and they needed him to start making plays that you started seeing him push in the fourth quarter. He tried to dunk on James Harden or Mitchell, one of them guys. The defense on the pickup, he was killing it on the glass. The game became desperate, and he tried to push it. Now, I think he saw that he was okay. Because I think you see in game 2, while it still wasn't the exact same Terminator we saw from OG Anunoby in the first 2 series, he started to push it a lot more offensively. He looks like a much more healthier player. With Mitchell, he looks like OG to me looked in the first game, where it's like he doesn't quite want to go and quite be aggressive, and that means a lot more James Harden, and that's just bad news for Cleveland. Harden wasn't terrible in this game, but the reality is he's a marginal player at this stage of his career. Scored 18 points. He made some tough shots. He was 3 for 7 for 3. He's only got to really shot the 3 ball relatively well besides Mobley, but only had 2 assists. He kept the turnovers down, which is good. So it didn't really have an impact. Again, some of the assist numbers are going to be due to guys not making shots. But only 18 points. He had that on 15 shots. Knicks will always take that. He couldn't get to the free throw line. He only got fouled for free throws 3 times. Only 3 free throw attempts. His impact is just muted. So if he's going to be the guy that's going to have to run more of the offense and be more aggressive, again, James Harden-led team is not beat the Knicks in the series. That's just a reality. Cleveland, they're in a tough spot. This is not where you want to be in terms of where they are, and you got to wonder if losing game 1, while I don't think it really impacted the start to this game. Again, I thought Mobley and Allen really set a great tone, and they were fine, and they won the first quarter. You just wonder as this game went on, though, and they realized they were going to be in a dogfight, and this was not going to be as easy as game one, where the Knicks just were bricking shot to shot to shot. And this one, Josh Hart started making these threes. You kind of wonder if that's when maybe you start to think, oh man, we shouldn't even be in this game, or this should be a game where we should be fine letting go of the rope because we already got game one. We got the game we needed. You kind of wonder if maybe like that frustration and that disappointment kind of started to seep in as you started to see again a lot of their shooters and their bench guys come in and not be able to make the kind of impact that they wanted. They tried to go to Jalen Tyson to maybe give him some energy. He also couldn't make any shots, so it was a rough go for Cleveland. Back on the Knicks side, in terms of how they performed in this game, Josh Hart deserves a ton of credit, but also Jalen Brunson, of course, deserves a ton of credit as well. While he didn't have the offensive game when it comes to his scoring, the 14 assists, which are a playoff career high for him, certainly won't go unnoticed on this podcast or for most people watching the game. Brunson showing what I think has been maybe one of the few criticism Knicks fans could have of him, maybe outside of maybe some issues with defense. This is something certainly we've talked about on this show. Is, is he willing to give it up? Is he willing to not play hero ball? Is he willing to let other guys eat when the game calls for that? And it was a great job by Jalen Brunson in letting the other guys eat, because that's what this game called for. They were putting more two on the ball. They were not going to allow Brunson to not play in the crowd. They were going to be willing to give other guys open looks on other guys' opportunities. It was up to Brunson to trust them to make the right plays. He had 14 assists, but he could have, if you include hockey assists, he probably had something like 25 assists. Like there were so many plays where he starts on a double team and he's giving up the ball to a guy who's either scoring or making the necessary pass. Here was Jalen Brunson when he was asked kind of about the importance of being able to adjust his style of play and the team being adjusted their style of play regardless of whatever the matchup dictates.
I think it's an advantage for us learning how to play differently. There are going to be times where one game plan is going to be different than the next. And so being able to adjust and learn on the fly and adjust on the fly it's something that we need to continue to get better at. But I think we've been doing a great job of it. We just got to continue to be open to figure out how we can win the next game.
The important thing about that, too, is being able to adjust. It feels like it's one of the major themes of this Knicks playoff run. And it's been such a major theme of this era of Knicks basketball. Is so much of their success or lack thereof has been hedged on their inability or ability to adjust to situations. And that was one of the biggest complaints with Tom Thibodeau. At times, it's been a complaint with Mike Brown. At times, where he hasn't adjusted quickly enough or has not seen the game the way people want him to see it. And it's the story, and it's been a criticism of Jalen Brunson. It's been a criticism of Karl Towns. Again, accepting a role, right? Like this is the theme of the Knicks postseason run in many ways. And you saw last night the adjustment was swift. Brunson immediately saw what the game was going to dictate, and it allowed for other guys to step up, including Mikal Bridges, who mentioned how much when you see a guy like Brunson make that quick adjustment and allow himself to be a facilitator, how that energizes the rest of the team.
But it just shows that he just plays the right way. If you're not going to send a double team, I think it's an advantage for him. And then if you send, a double team, he's going to read and react and find an open guy and play the right way. Ever since I've known him, he played the right way. So it's just kudos to him and how he works and his understanding of the game. But yeah, if you're going to keep helping off, he's going to, make you pay, and that's what makes him great.
Mikal Bridges was phenomenal in this game again, and he is putting together an awesome postseason. Like, you get to a point now where you want to talk about those first round picks. I just think you're missing the boat of what's happening. You're not really living in the moment of what's happening with this postseason run in this team. Like, F them picks, man. Like, that's where we're at. F them picks. Like, Mikal Bridges, his defense has been instrumental in each series they've played. Outside of the first 3 games where he was abysmal. Well, he wasn't even abysmal in the first 3 games. He actually really was abysmal in game 3. That was the game that was really, really bad. He wasn't really bad in game 2. Actually, still he had a good game. He just missed the last shot and took a terrible shot to close the game. And in game 1, he was fine. It was that game 3 that was like this terrible performance and that made you wonder if he just needed to be taken out of the starting lineup completely. His bounce back since then, was a slow build, because people keep always pointing to only Game 6 where he was crazy and the Knicks blew everybody out. But I thought he was good in Game 3 in limited minutes. He only scored 8 points, and that was the Atlanta series. He only scored 8 points, but I thought he was really good defensively. He made the shots he needed to make. He attacked the rim. Like, it was definitely a step in the right direction, and he responded to the criticism and stuff despite having limited minutes to do so. And he got better with every game, and then that's when the floodgates opened up at the end of the series in Game 6. And then he was phenomenal the entire series against Philly. He erased Tyrese Maxey, and he's erasing a hobbled, Donovan Mitchell right now too. And his defense of James Harden has also been good. He's had to guard both guys. The Knicks have been easily switchable in these matchups, and he's been great. There hasn't been a scenario where the Knicks have needed to break glass if necessary. OG Anunoby, you guard Donovan Mitchell, or you guard James Harden. That has not happened because Bridges, as the point of attack defender and as the primary defender on the best scorer on the other team, he continues to be lights out. He's just having the kind of impact that you wanted him to have when you made this trade. You wanted him to be a finishing piece on a team that was capable of winning an NBA championship, and in a game in which he's shooting since that terrible start, he's basically shooting almost 70% from the field. That's how dominant he has been. He shot 9 for 12 in this game, made the 1-3 that he took. Again, he shoots the ball. It feels like he's going in. He's also being way more aggressive going into the basket, which has been great to see as well. You actually end up seeing that he has a pretty good layup package, and he's long enough and athletic enough to dunk. You don't know why he sells so many jump shots, but he's playing great. He's just playing great. He's been an important piece to this team. He was great again yesterday. He spoke about how another year with this team has helped everybody. This is a unit now that's been together. You gotta forget, last year there was a lot of major changes, right? When you basically turn over the roster the way they did, even for a team that had a lot of playoff success. This was their first go-around last year, and they went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, which is quite telling in terms of how impressive that is. But because of how it ended and the disappointment that came with not getting into the finals in a year where it looked like they slayed the ultimate dragon and beating the Boston Celtics, we kind of lost sight of the fact that this was the team's first real year together with this unit. And here, Mikal Bridges mentions how playing together for the second year is a big, big advantage for their journey through this postseason.
For sure, having another year together, builds chemistry, builds just every day learning how to play off each other. That means a lot. It's big time for us. But yeah, just going through experience through last year, we played a lot of games, 82 plus, losing in East Conference Final last year, just learning a lot of things about each other, and it definitely helps.
Yeah, they're a mature team. They look like a team that, again, knows how to adjust on the fly. They know how they want to attack teams, and it's become evident that the Knicks are what I thought they've been pretty much all year, which is they're the most talented, deepest, best team in the Eastern Conference. The question was going to be, would they be able to play up to that level, especially given their experience? We're seeing them do that, and that's why the Knicks are 2 wins away from potentially winning the Eastern Conference and having an opportunity to play in the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. Another guy who I thought was huge in this game that perhaps becomes lost in the sauce because of Josh Hart's performance, because of Jalen Brunson. He's a superstar and he had 14 assists. And then people are running to Mikal Bridges because he's continued to play excellent. But I also thought Karl-Anthony Towns was huge in this game, especially in the first half. He was one of the few guys that was actually making threes. And when the team was kind of, again, in a weird spot where nobody quite was taking over, he had a really good first half. And he continued to set the tone. And he was really efficient. 7 for 12. So he's not getting a ton of shots, but 7 for 12. He made 3 threes. He attacked the rim. And he was able to put up 18 points in 36 minutes. And he was also in the glass. He had 13 rebounds. Very good bounce back game for Karl-Anthony Towns. And this was really great, too, because he had so many multiple games in a row where he played really well, with the exception of maybe some foul trouble as a thing to criticize him about. you hadn't seen a Crosby Town stinker in a while. And the last game 1 was one of them. Like, game 1 was like he is killing the team with stupid fouls. He's not being patient. He's really hurting the team with how he is playing. It felt like some of the bad Crosby Town games we've seen in the past. Knicks overcame it because of Brunson magic and some adjustments in the fourth quarter. But I kind of wanted to see would Crosby Towns be ready to go in game 2. Like, I was disappointing to have him in a important game. He's one of the leaders of the team, to him to come out like that. Like, he was terrible. This was a great bounce back. And it speaks to the level of maturity you're starting to see from this entire team, where bad games are going to happen. You're not going to have a team play perfect every single night, as long as it seemed like the Knicks were simply playing perfect basketball. That's not going to happen regularly. There are going to be letdowns. Can you bounce back? Can you get right back on track? Can you get your rhythm? And Crosby Towns, I thought, showed a lot of maturity to bounce back just like that. Fouls were low, only had 3, dominant on the glass, and great attack in the rim, much better finishing, doing a much better job. One of the things I hate with him when he's finishing is he's not looking at the rim, he's laying it up, which is why he's throwing up wild shots. Actually seeing the ball go up to the glass or up to the rim when you're looking, it helps you make layups a lot easier. Surprise, if you look at the basket, you actually can see what you're doing. Like, he just was way more under control. He was forceful with his attack, and then the 3-ball was working, man. He had the shot going. So, Crosby Towns, big unsung hero. It's weird to call him an unsung hero because he's a second star on this team. But because of Bridges, Brunson, and Hart, and the Villanova guys getting a lot of the praise, I think people forget how great Crosby Towns was in this game. He was awesome. OG was awesome. This was a great bounce-back game for him. I think he's getting better and better. And the Knicks are sitting pretty right now. They're in a really, really good spot for where they're playing. I want to speak to kind of where this series heads as we go to Game 3. So Game 3 will be in Cleveland. This is going to be Saturday, 8 p.m. I think the Cavs are in a lot of trouble. And I'm not trying to say that as like Mr. Knicks Homer guy, though this is, of course, a Knicks podcast. But I think they're in trouble because while I think there's a reasonable expectation that they should play with desperation and in theory, probably, at least offensively, play better in Game 3 than they did in Game 2. I think I agree with Kenny Atkinson to a point that going home certainly can give you what he called the juice needed to, and with the desperation that you need if you lose, essentially the series is over, to come out firing. I just would caution Cavs fans in Cleveland and owner Dan Gilbert, who put out this long tweet being like, hey, we're down 0-2, but don't worry, guys, we still got this. The Knicks are a better road team, in my opinion, during this postseason than a home team. If you think about the dominance of this 8-game win streak, if you were ranking the performances in terms of how good they were, the road wins are a lot higher than the home wins. They had one really lopsided win in Game 1 against Philly at home, but the home wins have either been close or they've won kind of like yesterday, where they won by 16, won by 20, something like that. The road games are the games where they're like putting their foot on people's throats and putting them out to pasture. They're playing with a different focus on the road, and I think some of the, you get to be insulated. You get out of New York City, and there's, the Knicks are doing a good job, I think, and see it clearly because they're winning. They're doing a good job of blocking out a lot of the noise, a lot of the hype. I actually really enjoyed Mikal Bridges. I don't have this sound, but Mikal Bridges, when they were talking to someone inside the NBA, and they asked him kind of like, it was a good question, like, how do you insulate yourself from what is the excitement that is happening in New York City? And I thought one of the idiotic comments from Draymond Green when he was trying to give commentary on the Knicks in the last series against Philly was, can the Knicks handle success? Because, with every win, the team throws a parade for, the city throws a parade for them, which is not true. There are no parades that are happening in New York City. There are people that are celebrating right outside of Madison Square Garden. That's happening, but there aren't parades. But to not get into the semantics of it, the overarching point is something that other people have mentioned, that the Knicks fans are getting too ahead of themselves and they're over celebrating when really the celebration needs to come when you win a championship at the end of the day. I really liked Mikal Bridges' answer when he was asked, how do you insulate yourself from what is legitimately becoming fever pitch excitement in New York City about this team? And he said what was a great quote, and I think it speaks to probably how the whole team is approaching this is, listen, the city's going to have its fun. Our fun has got to be on the court. And I was like, that is an awesome approach. Like, they can't engage. Like, Knicks fans, New Yorkers, we talk ish. Like, we talk crap. We showboat. We're flashy. That's just New York City. We're in your face. There is no, understatedness of anything New Yorkers do. So, while there aren't parades happening, yes, there are people that are celebrating. Yes, there are people talking a lot of trash on the internet. Yes, there are people who are going on podcasts, television shows, radio shows, whatever, and talking their ish because the Knicks right now are the talk of the town and they're doing something really special. But Bridges compartmentalizing it, being like, our fans are great, their support is great, and it's necessary. Their fun is going to be them talking, celebrating, doing their thing. Our fun has to be when we get on the court. Like, we can't engage in that. That's not our celebration to have. That's not our fun to have. That's not our thing to engage in any way. Our engagement is playing these opponents, playing these games. And that is how we celebrate how we're playing right now. It was a phenomenal answer, and it gave me a lot of it gives me a lot of ease if there is any doubts or questions about, is this team going to be able to remain focused. And actually, I think answers questions about why this team looks so locked in. It's like, damn, they are locked in a way that we just haven't seen from this group ever. I think that they've figured out how to navigate postseason success in New York for a fan base that is just so ready to celebrate its team's successes, which I don't think is a bad thing. People try to make it a bad thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with celebrating your team winning playoff games. These are huge games. Like, what? Should they just walk away and be sad? Like, I don't get it. So I really feel like I heard that answer from Bridges. I'm like, okay, the team has the right mindset. The team that's the exact way they're approaching it. And they're playing like that. They're playing like a team when they step onto the court. They can't wait to get out there and execute. They can't wait to attack. Like, I loved when Jalen Brunson came off the court after this win. He came off the court, shakes hands with everybody, and he immediately goes over to Josh Hart, and they're going over something on the court. Like, they're going over some kind of strategy, whatever. Like, there's no, wave to the crowd. Oh, thank you for the, standing ovation, whatever. Which wouldn't have been crazy. Like, he got a huge standing ovation. But, like, or even just a wave. I mean, just nod, But he didn't do none of that. It was just like, okay, yeah, the game's going to be over. I'm out. Hey, Josh, by the way, when we're doing X, Y, and Z, this is what we need. Like, they're locked in, man. Again, they're locked in. I don't have any fear about them not being focused as a reason why they're not going to find a way to win this series. So I say all that to say they're going to game 3 now, and they get out of the city. They get out of the bubble, and the efforts needed to avoid a lot of the hoopla around the team becomes a lot easier. I think that's why they played so well and so much better on the road, because they don't have to deal with, all right, I got to now make an effort to distract myself from everyone going ballistic in New York City with their excitement and joy. And now you go to Cleveland, which brings me to a soundbite that I can't believe I've waited this long to play, but.
You like it? You think Cleveland's cool? I mean, I never heard anybody say, I'm going to Cleveland on vacation. I mean, what's so good about Cleveland?
Shout out to Joakim Noah. But now they go to Cleveland. I've never been to Cleveland. I have nothing bad to say to Cleveland, but that's just a funny soundbite that will always remain. I actually saw a really cool, I didn't even watch the whole thing, but someone did like a mini documentary. It actually might have been a full documentary on like Joakim Noah, like actually, like he felt really bad about like how he talked about Cleveland, like after he retired or later in his career, and he actually made efforts to visit Cleveland, like stay for a while, learn about the city's culture, and he grew to actually love it. It's a great documentary because there's a lot of history in Cleveland. There's a lot of Black history. There's a lot of just history in general, American history in general, and I've never been, but people have said Cleveland has come up in a major way. They've built the downtown area a ton, and a lot of that's thanks to the king, right? LeBron James brought a lot of eyeballs, a lot of attention, a lot of economic development to the city. So shout out to Joakim Noah. That quote will live on beyond his change of heart about Cleveland. But this is a rivalry. This is a beef right now. You're in a series, so that soundbite we're gonna play until the series is over.
What's so good about Cleveland?
Well, Nick's about to find out. That's where they're gonna be. But I think that they'll have the opportunity to really lock in when they get to Cleveland and Again, I think Cleveland's in trouble. Like, if you told me they won this game, would it shock me? Absolutely not. Like, this is desperation time. They got to win. Some of these other guys that can't buy a shot right now, you got to assume because they're good shooters that they're going to start making some, being at home, hometown crowd, friendly confines, that it's going to help some of these other guys. The problem is, again, I don't think the Knicks are going to have a situation where they're going to play worse. I think that you're going to get probably another B+ at minimum or A- game from the Knicks, maybe even A+. They've shown they can play an A+ on the road. So if you're Cleveland, you got to play at a super high level, which means I'm expecting a very competitive, close game down the stretch. I think this is not going to be necessarily a blowout. I think the Knicks will play well. I think Cleveland will play well. It's going to come down to who executes in the fourth quarter. But the reality is, if you have an older, tired James Harden and a tired and perhaps injured Donovan Mitchell versus a healthy Jalen Brunson, road or the home, doesn't matter where the game's being played, I don't like your chances. I don't like your chances in that environment. And I think that's the environment we're seeing right now for this series. I think that's kind of where the series is headed and where it's at. So I'm going to say the Knicks are going to get a 3-0 lead here, which means the sweep is going to be in the picture and in the conversation. And that's not something I predicted or was suggesting was going to happen. Credit to other Knicks fans, Knicks observers who are a lot more faithful that could happen. But I think that's what you're potentially looking at with just the swing of the series. Like, the game that they had to get was the game one. Like, if they win that game, I think the series goes very differently. The Knicks, it feels like, are getting better in the series. It feels like the Cavs have gotten worse in the series. Every game is different. Now you have a different environment. We'll see what happens in game 3. But again, if you're a Knicks fan, I think it's appropriate to start to feel really confident about where the team is headed. My guy Rob DeRay has been watching. Again, this is a live edition of Orange and Blue Bloods that we're doing, in part because of some issues with 48s and Counting, which is my other podcast, which is really more of a live stream show that I do. Didn't allow to do that on X, so I wanted to give the people a bonus. So we're up on YouTube doing this episode of Orange and Blue Bloods, and then of course we're live on X doing this episode, which is not something we always do on Orange and Blue Bloods, but we do it every now and then. Rob posting, build Josh Hart a statue, put it in Central Park. This is probably what Jeremy Green's talking about when he says that we keep throwing them parades. We want to do things like that. The street signs was a bad thing. That was the thing, and anybody, and I think most Knicks fans didn't like that. I don't like. There's sometimes this attitude that Knicks fans are soft and they celebrate everything, and they're hard on their team. They're also hard on what they think are bad decisions. I think a lot of Knicks fans thought that was stupid. We can't control the mayor being an idiot. Like that's nothing. That's not in our control. That's not in the players' control. In theory, could the Knicks, if they got word about it, try to shut it down? I guess in theory. I don't know. I don't know how that process was. That was probably the one thing I thought that went way too far. But that wasn't a team decision. That was one idiot's decision to put up street signs that were naming streets after certain players. Josh Hart joked about that before game 1. He was asking, how do you take advantage of, or how do you deal with, the excitement around the city? And he was like, well, did they give us street names this year? And they said no. He's like, oh man, I'm disappointed, which is a funny line. But yeah, I look at Josh Hart. It was funny. Shout out to Jonathan Macri. He's a very busy man. I don't know if we'll get him on the show, but he's been on New Generation Media before. I do hope to get somebody from Knicks Film School on before this playoff run is over. But I don't, Macri made an interesting comment that I never really thought about. And my instinct told me no, but now I'm kind of wondering. He said that he thought, when this all is said and done and the careers are over, Jalen Brunson will have his number retired, which is obvious. And I want to point out that I said that. That's one of the first hot takes on Maggie and Perloff that I gave. And it's not, I don't even to call it a hot take. It just was the truth, and it just was my opinion. But I said this in my first 2 months there, a month there, and everyone looked at me like I had 8 heads. But I mentioned that Jalen Brunson's number is going to be in the rafters. And people were like, are you kidding me? He's only been there for a year. I'm like, have you watched this guy play? I don't care about how long he's been here. The production is going to require that his number goes up, because unless he gets hurt, he's going to have great moments. He's going to continue to be a star. He's going to make all-star games. His team's going to have success. They're going to the playoffs every year. Yes, his number's going to be retired. There's not that many numbers up there. So it's not like he's got a lot of competition. And that aged like the finest of Italian wines that you will ever hear. Me saying that Jalen Brunson's number is going to be in the rafters after 1 year playing with the Knicks. Macri mentioned how he thought Josh Hart's number would be up there. And I was like, games like last night will make the case that maybe it should be. But I never thought about Josh Hart as a number retirement guy. I mean, he wears number 3. Josh Hart, the other famous number 3, a guy who I think you could make a case maybe should have his number retired, but does not, is John Starks. John Starks does not have his number retired. I think John Starks was a better player. But, they're different, but they're very similar in many different ways. Personality is similar. The feast of famine aspect of them are similar. The wearing your heart on your sleeve, the attachment to the city, and the what feels like the symbiotic relationship with the city is similar. There are a lot of similarities, but I don't know. I didn't look at Josh Hart and look at him and said that he was number retirement guy. Because what then that made me do is, number one, of course, again, okay, well, where the hell is Bernard King? Which I'm not trying to diss Macri's take at all. I just thought it was an interesting talking point, which is why I'm bringing it up. I don't like to do a take on a take. But I was like, Josh Hart in the rafters. Because BK needs to be up there. Why he's not up there is insane. I don't know why. I feel like for some reason the team doesn't want him up there, but they've made some deal to okay, you're not gonna be up in the rafters, but we'll let you consistently have the opportunity to sit courtside at every game, because he's there almost every night. He is there almost as much as Clyde, who's calling the games. It's crazy. Great for him. He deserves it. But I'm like, all right, you keep giving him the courtside seats. Can you give him up in the rafters? That's how he's gonna be immortalized. I know these seats are probably for the amount of games he goes, they're probably giving away almost millions of dollars in money to give him courtside seats every night. But I'm like, my goodness, he should be in the rafters. Okay, but put Bernard King aside, and I don't think Mac or anybody would disagree with that per se. Is Josh Hart getting the number retired over Melo? Let's say the Knicks get to the finals, and I don't even want to say the word that they lose, but let's say they lose. Is Josh Hart getting over Melo? Or John Starks? Oakley ain't never getting it up for other reasons, but Charles Oakley was very important to the 90s Knicks, and I think that there were 90s Knicks fans that thought that Oakley and Starks would get their numbers retired, and they didn't. And I think with time, that feels okay. I don't sit around thinking that Starks and Oakley need their number retired. That's beyond Oakley's issues with the team. When they were here and when their career shortly ended, and you saw how terrible the team was for so long, you're like, man, these guys were all about New York. And I think there was maybe a call, or at least a opinion that maybe you could make a case. But as time has gone on, I'm like, no, that should go up for the superstars and the champions. If they don't get a championship, I don't think Josh Hart gets it. Now, if they do, that becomes an interesting conversation. Because if they do, he might have to get one. Because in my opinion, the transition for the Knicks becoming a feel-good story, turn around the franchise into a respectable organization thing, turned to championship contender when he and Brunson showed up. Brunson showed up, exceeded expectations, oh, okay, this team is really good. Then Hart shows up, and you're like, oh crap, this team is really, really good. There's the building blocks for something special. Maybe he's not Brunson, but he's the other guy. I think that changed that. It was not Julius Randle and Tibbs; those guys were already here. It was Hart and Brunson. So I think you can make a case that if they win a title, he would need to get up there. I think there's a real case for that, for sure. I know Carvey Town certainly will have a case. Mikal Bridges will certainly have a case. Those would be the 4 guys. But Josh Hart would have a case if they win a championship. No question, to have his number retired. These are the conversations you can have when you're 6 wins away from an NBA championship. But we can't look that far ahead. I know I've done a ton of looking ahead right now, but the reality is we're heading into a Game 3. This is going to be a crucial game. I am picking the Knicks to win. And I had Knicks in 6. So, and I'm not someone who likes to go against what I thought was going to happen, but I'm watching the series as it's going. Cleveland looks wobbly to me. I don't like how Mitchell looks. I don't think Harden's going to get better as the series goes on. I think you get good games from Strus and from Merrill. But I think the Knicks are going to play extremely well on the road and maybe even better than they've played yet in this series. I don't think they've seen the best Knicks game so far. And that's a scary thing for Cleveland, too. The reality is I don't think you've seen the best Knicks game. You saw the best Jalen Brunson quarter. You saw the best defensive performance probably in game 2. But as a complete overall game where everything is clicking, which is coming, because the Knicks are going to have that kind of game. They're that good. Where no matter how well you play, is just some things you can't control. That game hasn't come yet, and that usually has come on the road. So I think the Cavs are in a lot of hurt, man. I think that they're in a lot of trouble. So we'll see what happens with the Knicks, man. Real quickly on the flip side of the bracket, the interesting thing to look at as the series between the Spurs and Thunder takes place now in San Antonio, injuries are mounting up in that series. The series that heading into Friday is tied 1-1. Jalen Williams, who's been dealing with hamstring injuries all year, couldn't finish game 2 because of a hamstring injury. Dylan Harper, who's been phenomenal as a 20-year-old phenom, essentially, in this postseason, couldn't finish game 2 with a hamstring injury. De'Aaron Fox hasn't gotten on the court in this series yet because of an ankle injury. These are the two teams, if you listen to a lot of the basketball fans, basketball aficionados, and quite frankly, some Knicks haters have been mentioning that as good as the Knicks are playing and as exciting as it is and how much props they deserve for getting through the East, is that they don't have a shot to win a championship because the Western Conference is too good and the two teams at the West are playing at too high a level. But all those things could be true. I think it's being overstated with the Spurs. I've seen the Knicks play the Spurs healthy, and they're kind of evenly matched. I've said if the Knicks don't play the Thunder, I would give them a great shot to win an NBA championship. That is what I've said since the beginning, and I will continue to say that. That is why I picked them to win an NBA championship, because I didn't think they'd play the Thunder. Right now, it could go either way. That's how that series looks. It looks like it could go either way. But the scenario that also is playing out is that there's a war of attrition happening on that side, and you have a Knicks team that is up 2-0 and could maybe end the series quite early. If you're looking at a Spurs or a Thunder team that is hobbling coming into the finals, they're still extremely live and extremely dangerous and certainly may still be favored, but it's a factor going into the NBA Finals for sure if that is what the scenario becomes. We'll get more later, not for people who are, obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, you may already know what's going on with Harper and with Williams for Game 3. But for the live folks, obviously we'll get more later today on what's going on with those two guys. But considering hamstring injuries and how debilitating they can be, I don't feel good about those teams in terms of being able to get healthy and get right in time for the NBA Finals, potentially, with either of those guys if those injuries are severe. So this is something to follow, man. This is something to follow. And for the Knicks, not that you really need to be looking over on that other end. You gotta focus on what you're looking at. But just from a macro sense, getting through Cleveland as quickly as possible and getting extended rest, while we saw maybe it wasn't great for them the first 3 quarters of this game, getting the extended rest and then once again seeing a team that maybe is going to come in super hobbled would be a great advantage for the Knicks and a great circumstance for the Knicks heading into what would be a monster series against a monster opponent, whether it's the Spurs or the Thunder. These are two great teams. But the war of attrition is going to be something to follow. A lot of times with the NBA Finals and the NBA playoffs, yes, the most talented team wins often, but sometimes it also comes down to who's the healthiest. And right now, it feels like the Knicks are the healthiest team left in the playoffs. OG Anunoby seems to be getting better, not worse. That's really the only known injury we know anybody that's nursing right now. Everyone else has an injury that they have worried about. Mitchell's saying he's not hurt, but he looks hurt to me. Spurs got Fox and Harper. Thunder now have J-Dub. So all interesting developments to follow as the playoffs continue, man. That's going to do it for this edition of Orange and Blue Bloods, a special live edition for Orange and Blue Bloods. For those who got to watch live, hope you guys enjoyed. This was fun to do. We don't do lives typically, but I like to do them if I can. So I'm really happy we got to figure this one out and do this one live. This was so much fun. Of course, if you want to listen to Orange and Blue Bloods, you always can by subscribing to Orange and Blue Bloods wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Orange and Blue Bloods. And while you're there, do me a couple favors. If you can subscribe to the channel, that'd be great. If you can hit auto download on your auto download feature or whatever your streaming services, that'd be great. And if you could leave a 5-star review and leave a written review how much you love the episodes, that would also be great. Appreciate all that effort. All of it does make a difference. Also, of course, if you want to watch these episodes, just like those that are watching on YouTube right now, or those who are watching on X but want to know where I can typically watch these episodes. Besides last episode, which I didn't post because I wasn't in my normal setting, and it was a busy day on Tuesday, or what was it, Wednesday. I recorded the episode, put it out, and it just ran in terms of the audio. And I thought about maybe posting the video later, but I got back so late. It didn't make sense to post it at that point. So there's no video of the last episode of Orange and Blue Bloods, but every other episode gets posted to our YouTube channel. So if you search New Generation Media, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. You can get every episode of Orange and Blue Bloods and watch the video. So if you want to see my handsome face and some cool graphics, that is the place to go. So make sure you head over to my YouTube channel, New Generation Media, where we have all New Generation Media content. So all the other shows I do, I mentioned 40 Days and Counting on this. That show is always up on my YouTube channel. Of course, we got Hero Talk, which is our Marvel DC podcast. We got Imperial Broadcast. We got all different kinds of content. We got plenty of NBA draft content on there. So make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Support your boy on YouTube, New Generation Media. And, of course, follow me on social media. We're on Twitter /X, EJ_Stewart. Instagram, TikTok, Action EJ, as well as on Buzzer. Search EJ Stewart or EJ205 Prep, and you'll find me on Buzzer. Rob DeRay in the chat being like, win a chip, and we can talk about non-superstars getting their number retired. Yeah, that's fair. That's how I look at it. I don't know if simply just getting to the championship means Josh Hart would get his number retired. I think he'd have to win. If he wins, I think that's a definite fair conversation, given his impact. Also, Rob in the chat, we will smoke the Thunder too, don't worry. I hope you're right, man. I hope you're right. I really do. The Thunder are a phenomenal team. I think the Knicks can certainly compete with them, but the goal is not to compete with them. The goal is to win, right? And that's what I keep wrestling with is, can that team beat OKC 4 out of 7? I think it would take probably at least 6 or 7 to beat them. It's a tall task, not impossible, but it's a damn good team over there. Again, I have no delusions of how good OKC is, but they are hobbled, I think, and that is a big storyline for the rest of this postseason. That's going to do it, man. I want to thank you guys so much for checking out Orange and Blue Bloods. This was a ton of fun. Thank you guys who checked me out live. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube, New Generation Media. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And we'll be back after Game 3. When the episode will be recorded, I don't know. It could be Sunday morning. It could be Saturday after the game. We'll see. But be on the lookout. These episodes are coming out every time the Knicks play. So I think the next day, next morning, next afternoon, you'll see it up. So keep it locked here, man. Let's go Knicks. And I'm EJ Stewart. It's been a fun one. We'll see you later.